Welcome to Alpha Recaps. Today we're going to review the movie No Mercy. Two photographers were seeking to get a great shot of the birds at the river. They by chance discovered the corpse of a woman. Top forensic pathologist Kang was teaching his last class in the police academy. That is his final semester as a professor because after his retirement he wants to spend greater time along with his daughter, who's dwelling within the United States. She changed into presupposed to be journeying these days. However, her trip were given behind schedule. After elegance is over, Kang is referred to as by the police to have a look at the frame found near the river. There, he is surprised to find Detective Min, who used to be his student. Min is not taken severely via her friends for being a girl, and she's frequently relegated to minor duties. At the least this time, she unearths something beneficial to get her started, mysterious footprints, that she takes images of. Kang takes a look at the body and unearths that it's been dismembered. However, the murderer left all of the elements in the back of together except for an arm. Later on the police station, they appearance over the little facts they have. The victim is Ian a 29-year vintage that had been reported missing. Kang asks for theories and Min thinks the murderer desired them to find and discover the body. Detective Yoon berates her as typical, wondering this changed into just a few loop a man with a grudge. However, Kang concurs with her and asks her to stay for the autopsy. Kang is cold and methodical with his work, however Min cannot stand the sight for lengthy and leaves the room to throw up. Later, Kang offers the cop a précis of the preliminary post-mortem. Ian died from a fractured skull caused by a protracted, difficult item. Soil containing granite changed into discovered and her nostrils and mouth, marking the area where she died. There have been additionally signs and symptoms of salt that suggest she was dismembered by using the ocean, so the frame was moved among the killing and the cutting, but the components were thrown within the river, which adds a third region to the list. Min recollects there may be a construction organization operating on the Coastal Reclamation Challenge, and their factories are on the seafront. Meanwhile, Yoon has observed out Ian used to have a boyfriend, and the cops are divided into teams to observe those leads. Yoon goes across the town asking if all people has visible the boyfriend and has to arrest multiple gamblers till he comes throughout Byungdu playing the horses. He's taken to the station for interrogation, but Byungdu swears he hasn't visible Ian in a month and the night of the crime he have been playing. In the intervening time, Min interviews a few factory managers, who swear they're operating 24/7 to keep up with order, in particular because they prefer being burdened by using environmental protesters. So it is not possible for a homicide to manifest there without them seeing it. However, the people still come to be finding the missing arm within the soil. Later in the nighttime, Min visits Kang at his domestic to speak about the case, and he or she's instructed to open the door with a chunk of rope he left there because the electronic lock is damaged. After petting Kang's pleasant canine, she offers the crime photographs to Kang, who reaches the end. The killer is attempting to inform them something and that the three locations must have something in not unusual. Later on, Min remains up past due investigating the places. Tomorrow, she has an in-depth report to give that Yoon attempts to brush aside. However, Chief O gives her a threat. The environmental group I Like Venus has been trying to stop the construction organization from destroying the ocean and river existence. The leader Sung Ho wrote an e-book comparing the local river to the well-known statue of Venus, and the way the government is destroying the river coasts to the way Venus have been severed. Inside the beyond, this harm suits the country of Ian frame, and the three locations had all been underneath production through the equal organization. The day of the crime, there has been a war of words among the employees and the protesters, so operations had been stopped for 20 minutes, leaving sufficient time for the killer to strike. The leader has an incapacity that reasons him to walk with a cane, which suits the twisted footprint and the little hollow in the mud too. Min's studies is taken seriously and he or she's dispatched together with Yoon to arrest the leader, Lee Sung-ho, who surrenders himself effortlessly, claiming to ought to pay for what he did. Later at the station, Yoon cannot get Sung-ho to speak approximately anything apart from the significance of the species dwelling in the river, so Min takes over the research. She is aware of Sung-ho's circle of relatives became one of the many that lost their ships while construction started, which means that they also lost their livelihood and had to go away their homes. Rapidly after this, Sung-ho's father Mr. Lee died and his sister Soo-jin ended things for herself. Min additionally well-known shows she sprayed water out of doors to take a new footprint from Sung-ho, which suits the only from the scene of the crime. Seeing this evidence, Sung-ho admits to being the killer. Meanwhile, Kang is at the airport looking ahead to his daughter, but she never arrives. A stranger methods him to present him an envelope sent by way of Sung-ho, and interior he unearths pictures of his daughter Hye-gain tied up. The stranger is already long past so Kang cannot ask him something, and at that second, Min calls him to tell him the killer becomes Sung-ho, the equal character that sent the envelope. Kang hurries toward the station whilst he calls a chum at customs, who confirms Hye-won did arrive the alternative day as planned and the delay had been a lie from the abductors. Again within the station, Yoon is looking Sung-ho for the details, however he would not say anything, and Best looks on the clock as if anticipating something. Kang arrives then and asks for a moment with Sung-ho, who isn't always amazed to see him. His deal is simple, Kang have to prove him harmless in 3 days or his daughter will die. Desperate to assist Hye-gain, Kang rushes to the lab to see what proof has been located. Up to now, the analyst suggests him the blood-blanketed saw they have observed, but the DNA check hasn't been achieved yet. Kang takes a scalpel on his manner out and goes home to apply it on his dog. He also requests a psychiatric assessment of the suspect to postpone the investigation. Afterward, Kang calls the analyst and asks him to watch for him on the workplace. With him out of the lab, Kang sneaks internal, washes the noticed, and covers it with the canine's blood as a substitute. Min additionally comes to the lab to choose up the test results and finds the analyst inside the office. Then Kang indicates up and tells the analyst to complete his work before having a chat with Min, pronouncing Sung-ho's limited mobility couldn't have allowed him to kill a person and the evidence is circumstantial, so that they have to watch for the document earlier than asking for a warrant. Subsequent, Kang asks for a warrant from a cop pal and receives to visit Sung-ho in prison, looking evidence that his daughter's alive. Sung-ho takes Kang's phone and makes a call, angering Kang when he discovers Sung-ho is only pretending to speak to someone. Kang begins beating Sung-ho up, handiest to be interrupted through his smartphone ringing. It's Hye-won, who asks her father for help earlier than the decision is reduced off. Then, Kang asks Sung-ho to inform him where the homicide weapon is, but he refuses and asks Kang to reflect on consideration on why he killed the girl rather. The subsequent moves to interrupt into Ian-a's domestic. Kang unearths a commercial enterprise card and makes a name to meet Ari, a chum of the sufferers. She doesn't recognize Sung-ho and explains there weren't guys in Ian-a's lifestyles, except for Byung-do, who become only a harasser and no longer an actual boyfriend. The following morning, the analyst offers Min to take a look at effects and they are taken aback to see the blood on the noticed belonged to a dog. Later on the station, Leader O is livid with the aid of this improvement, so he needs the team to locate the murder weapon ASAP. However, Min is being shamed for her failure and asked to stay at the back of with the office work. Meanwhile, Kang is searching for Byung-do. While Min calls him to ask for the post-mortem report, he pretends he stayed at home because he changed into unwell. While speak me to her, Kang sees Byung-do on the road and gets prepared to capture him. However, then Min mentions the law enforcement officials are searching out the murder weapon and Kang decides to take care of that first. Driving like a maniac, Kang manages to arrive at Sung-ho's house first and finds a photo of him with Park, the stranger from the airport. At that second, the police arrive, so Kang runs to cover, accidentally losing the scalpel. On the way, the cops choose up the scalpel and find a crowbar with blood out of doors, taking it as the homicide weapon. Within the period in between, Min is going to Kang's residence to check on him. Due to the fact he may not answer the bell, she receives inside with the aid of pulling the rope and unearths the dog, who has a bandage round its blood-protected leg. Min takes the canine to the vet, who tells her the wound is a reduce from a especially sharp knife, perhaps a scalpel. The vicinity of the wound shows it has been made on motive. Back to Kang, he goes to the neighborhood police station to send the image to a police pal. but a cop there acknowledges the lads and gives him the records he wishes. Park was an orphan that Mr. Lee took in. He and Sung-ho grew up as brothers. Park and Sung-ho's sister Soo-jin had been courting, but after she died, they moved out of town. Kang is going to the Lee's abandoned childhood residence by way of the river, and while most of it's far empty, breaking into a locked room comes with a shocking discovery. The partitions are blanketed with snapshots of Ina and High-gained. There also are antique news articles. Approximately a scholar that had been attacked with the aid of 3 boys from rich families. However, these boys have been declared harmless. At that second, Park arrives at the house and sees Kang, inflicting him to run away. Kang is going after him and gets hit by using a car inside the process, so by the time he reaches Park, he's too weak to fight. Park beats him up and reminds him to play by using the guidelines before knocking him out. Whilst he wakes up, Kang returns to the station, remembering the night time his daughter were given unwell, and punches the replicate in anger. Later, Min is asked to take the scalpel to the lab, and he or she recollects what the vet said. She asks the analyst if the lab turned into ever empty, and he factors out the night time Kang had requested him to come to the workplace. Then, Min searches the workplace, finding the damaged replicate and the photograph of Sung-ho with Park. Within the meantime, Kang visits Sung-ho and confesses he is ultimately remembered who he is. The abused woman from the newspaper articles changed into Sung-ho's sister Soo-jin, and Kang's testimony. Approximately the post-mortem file had helped the criminals get free. He explains he most effective did his activity lower back then, and that now the cops have the homicide weapon. So Kang can't do whatever to assist Sung-ho anymore. However, Sung-ho still refuses to interrupt the deal and tells him to find a manner. Meanwhile, the detectives discover that the crowbar is not the real murder weapon due to the fact the blood on it would not healthy Ian's, and the thickness doesn't healthy the wound either. After the Sung-ho visit is over, Kang bumps into Min, who attempts to arrest him for tampering with evidence. Kang explains his daughter is in trouble, however leaves without giving Min any more facts. Min makes a decision to analyze Kang and discovers his involvement in Soo-jin's case. Now not only Kang had been in price of the post-mortem, Ina have been one of the witnesses. Min attempts to speak to Sung-ho approximately it, however he handiest tells her no longer to consider Kang earlier than giving her his cane, claiming it's the actual murder weapon. Within the period in between, Kang reveals Byung-do again and calls Ari to help him with a plan. Ari techniques Byung-do to have a drink with him at a bar, after which takes him to a hotel room, wherein they spend a few hours collectively. Kang retrieves the glass Byung-do used and Ari brings him Byung-do's seed, even though she did this due to the fact she needs revenge for Ina. Suddenly, Kang is approached by Min, who obtained a call from Park to inform her about Kang's whereabouts. But, Park shows up as well and knocks Min out to provide Kang time to finish his plan. While Min is taken to a medical institution, Kang returns to the lab to eventually do the post-mortem document. He flours Byung-do's fingerprint and seed inside the body. For this reason his final report makes him appear like the killer. Even as operating, he recollects the trial of Soo-jin's case, where Ina had testified that she saw Soo-jin with the boys and she had appeared like she turned into having a laugh. Such testimony made Mr. Lee cry out in the middle of the trial because they were sullying his daughter's name. Then Kang testified that there hadn't been any torn tissue observed within the frame, so there wasn't any evidence of violence or pressure. Those two stories made the Chus decide that the 3 boys have been innocent. By the time the detectives try to prosecute Sung-ho, he is following Kang's plan and has gotten himself a legal professional that explains his confession have been finished below duress and he is now taking it again. The cane matched the form of the wound, but it did not have blood on it, and the footprints may be defined through the reality Sung-ho lives within the region, so that they cannot be used as evidence. Both. Then the autopsy file arrives, and the detectives have no desire. On the hospital, a pal of Min's brings her a few records. In Soo-jin's case, one-of-a-kind autopsy reports had been used, and one among them did include tissue harm. This means that Kang gave fake testimony. It would not be sudden if the men's wealthy mother and father paid the witnesses off due to the fact the entire case were a mess. Talking of the men, they're all dead now, and through adding ENA to the listing, Min suspects Kang is next. She leaves the health facility to search for Kang and asks her co-workers to dispatch a unit to Sung Ho's house. However, while she seems on the photograph once more even as waiting on the prevent lights, she recollects the abandoned formative years domestic via the river and comes to a decision to head there alternatively. At Sung Ho's house, Kang suggests up to apologize for Sujin and needs to understand where his daughter is. Sung Ho doesn't purchase the apology and hits him for sullying his sister's call, inflicting Kang to don't forget what else came about that day. High-gained have been sick with an unprecedented illness that required her to go to America for treatment. With a purpose to pay for it, Kang widespread the bribe from the boy's mother and father to change his testimony. Mr. Lee had approached Kang to ask for mercy, however Kang not noted him while a young Sung Ho watched from afar. Returned to the present, Kang asks Sung Ho to kill him in preference to his daughter as Sung Ho explains how much hatred he grew up with because everyone in town concept his sister become a tart, so it is too past due for Kang to ask for mercy for his daughter. Livid, Kang jumps on Sung Ho and beats him up till he confesses the vicinity of High-gained. Kang drives out at an excessive velocity, almost crashing against the detective unit on his way. Min arrives at the river residence and is discovered by means of Park, who tries to kill her, so Min need to shoot him in self-defense. She additionally reveals the stressful revenge Sung Ho has organized for Kang. Whilst the professor arrives at the river residence, Min attempts to warn him no longer to move inside, but he doesn't pay attention and searches the rooms for his daughter. High-1 is determined mendacity down on a pile of rose petals, however when Kang tries to select her up, she discovers her frame is lacking and most effective her head and limbs are there. It seems she's been useless all alongside, and the messages he has heard have been recorded earlier than she were given accordingly. Kang's post-mortem and proof tampering had been carried out on his own daughter. Even as Kang suffers in despair, gun again, this time on himself.